When speaking about Czech black metal, most people can name a handful of bands like Inferno, Cult of Fire, Master's Hammer, Thor, or Root. Beyond that, knowledge grows thin. From a stereotypical German perspective, Czechia is often reduced to Prague, tourism, beer, and great food, while its musical underground remains largely unseen. This documentary tries to shed light on the vast Czech black metal scene, hidden behind language barriers, pride, and mystery. Like in other parts of the Eastern Bloc, rock and metal was considered subversive and was strictly regulated by the state and monitored by the Ministry of Culture, Ministerstvo kultury, and the secret police, Státní bezpečnost. Yet, in the underground, some young artists grew a new spirit of resistance and rebellious spirit. When Venom first used the term black metal in 1982, Thor, one of the first Czech bands experimenting with the darker side of metal, had already existed for around 5 years.
No, do té doby jsme měli standardní Motorhead, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Accept, jo. A vlastně Venom v tu dobu byli takový jako zjevení, toho pro nás, jo. My jsme to prostě zaregistrovali tu kapelu a hrozně se nám to líbilo a říkali jsme si, že budeme dělat něco podobného, co oni. A naposlouchali jsme to a nějak jsme vstřebali tu atmosféru toho black metalu a hrozně se nám to líbilo a vlastně dejme tomu, na základech těch věmů jsme začali tvořit písničky, které už byly jako black metalové. A samozřejmě my jsme nechtěli dělat tu muziku jako Venom, to určitě ne. My jsme ji chtěli dělat jako po naše, nebo jak jsme to uměli složit, jak textově, tak jako hudebně. Tak z toho samozřejmě nevznikl jako Venom, vznikl z toho prostě Thor. Ale měl jakoby, byl na základech, dejme tomu, toho Venom. Thor, jinak ta kapela je daleko starší, ale black metalový Thor je od roku 1986. A samozřejmě ty začátky byly hrozně skvělý, byly hrozně zajímavý tím, že jsme byli v podstatě jedna z prvních black metalových kapel jako v Československu ještě. A takže my jsme měli trošku jako problémy vůbec začít hrát, protože tenkrát to tady nešlo, jako museli mít člověk jako zřizovatele, aby začala ta kapela fungovat. Ty jsme nějaký vždycky našli, chvilku jsme hráli, pak ten režim, který tady byl, nás vždycky dost často jako zakazoval. Ale v rámci toho, že jsme byli v tom svém stylu tady v podstatě jakoby jediný, tak na nás chodilo hodně lidí. Tak to bylo, všechny ty koncerty byly vyprodané.
One of the biggest questions in most likely every country evolving black metal music might be, who was first? In Czechoslovakia, back then not yet separated, this was also discussed and led basically to a triumvirate consisting of Thor, Ruud and Master Hammer. The Thrash Nightmare Festival managed to bring two more veterans of early Czech black metal on the stage who were and still are big: Silent Hell and Blakoš.
Ještě ani možná nebyl Master Hammer.
Ne, to já myslím, že ještě v tu dobu určitě nebyl.
Ale jako první, the first band, Thor. Jo.
To byla taková první
To
jako
byl prostě první
nátisk black metalu u nás.
První nátisk. A pak byla ta nejsilnější trojka, teda možná bylo něco víc ještě, já nevím. Fata Morgana, ale to pro mě nebyl black metal, to bylo prostě zábava.
To bylo trošku ne.
Buranismus. No ale tak to byl Thor, prostě Ruud, Master Hammer. No a my jsme to začali vlastně s Big Bossem tak, že já na vesnici u babičky, já jsem na ně chodil na nějakou zábavovou kapelu a tam zpíval ten šílený Big Boss, ty vole. Dělal strašný bordel, úplně jsem tím byl fascinovaný. Tak jsem chodil zase za klukama do zkušebny a půjčoval si tam kytaru, ještě jsem ani neměl kytaru, protože jsem hrál vlastně na akustickou doma. To byla dobrá průprava, protože na to bylo těžký hrát, takže jsem se to docela rychle naučil. A už jsem tam hrnul nějaký prostě ty riffy, prostě bátory a tak. Tak jsem si půjčoval kytaru od nich a Big Boss se dal za bicí a hrál tam, jakože zkoušel nějaký trashing. A pak to prostě už vyústilo v to, že jsme založili tu kapelu. Pozvali jsme si tam další nějaký kamarády, nakoupili jsme lahváče, hodně piva a pustil se kazeťák, nahrávání a nahrávalo se to na kazeťák. To bylo 0. demo. V podstatě to byl takový jam session. Já bych řekl, že to byl blues black metal, nebo blues thrash metal. To bylo tam hodně prostě bluesu a najednou se to zvrtlo nějaký prostě nářez. No a pak jsme to začali nějak koncipovat, to bylo tak v 85., 86. Big Boss byl v tom hodně agilní, prostě napsal ty texty, který už prostě fakt měli nějakou formu a měli nějakou literární výpověď. Mezitím vznikl Master Hammer.
Jo, přesně. No, to Franta dával
a to bylo prostě, to bylo něco, kurva, říkám, to je ono, ty vole, to jsou český bátory, vole.
To byla největší inspirace bátory, absolutně, no. Teda to bylo taková modla de facto, která určila směr. No, a vlastně takový ten nátisk, ta inspirace, prostě tam ty bátory byly jako od začátku.
Ten finishic tam to je hodně.
Jo.
Ale ještě neměl ten správný surový hlas. To až možná...
To bylo až později, přesně, až se to trošku vyvíjelo, protože tam se vlastně změnila i sestava Master Hammer, já jsem tam přišel vlastně...
Tam hrál ten cikán.
No, ta Ferenc Fečo na bicí, pak se tam změnila potom Finish Head, první demo, pak bylo vlastně demo Life in Zbraslav, což bylo vlastně živá nahrávka. No a potom vlastně byl ten Más a jakoby už jsem tam i figuroval já, to bylo vlastně nějak 8-9 vlastně jsme natáčeli.
Igor Hubík, who joined Ruud in 2001 as bass player, agreed on the general opinion about Thor and their importance of early Czech black metal. He then carried the torch of his fandom to this day in supporting the second big name of Czech black metal.
Thor, which are, the founders of Czech black metal scene, I guess. So they planned a different style. They played something like, Venom music, the same image, like 3 members band. And Ruud was different. It was like more like, you can compare it like to Merciful Fate or King Diamond. I just remember when I saw Ruud for the very first time, it was shortly before the very first album Zjevení was released. So it was in my hometown, of course, in Brno. So it was shocked, they were just, the whole show, it means 1 hour, for example. Both guitarists were just with their long hair, only, standing on the same place the whole show, just playing between songs, not playing. That was all. No headbanging, they were like with long hair like this and playing. I remember who is Blackosh and who is Mr. Dan. They were similar, absolutely. And Big Boss was still moving on the scene. He was on the right side. He was behind the drum kit, in front of a drum kit. It was interesting. Everybody was watching him. Everybody was like excited. I don't think I could compare this band to any band from Czechoslovakia, because the other metal bands were different. Boss' voice was always something different. He used clean vocals, he used screaming, he was whispering, lyrics, talking the lyrics, So, yeah, that's why Root is original band also.
While Root and Thor had an early impact in the Czech metal and black metal scene, Master's Hammer emerged to complete the triumvirate. The band could be easily called a supergroup, as some of the most important names of the early and later Czech scene were, at some point, part of the project. Their first album, Ritual, unbeknownst to the band itself, achieved to give Czechia an early international reputation.
So I was never an expert on Czech metal at all, but in 1990, this little thing here came in the mail, and it's got Master's Hammer's hammer on it. It came in the mail via maybe a magazine or fanzine from Czechia or the East Bloc. This had the Master's Hammer tracks with really good quality, and we were really eager to check out more Master's Hammer because it sounded exactly what we needed in 1990-91. Then February 91, the Ritual album comes out. We get it later in Norway. I think probably Euronymous brought in many copies to his shop when he opened that in August 91, the Helvete shop, and it was just awesome. The Ritual album. It was just a continuation of this though, and the vocals are perfect. And personally, I always called it like the first Norwegian black metal album, that album.
František Storm, the mastermind behind Master's Hammer, today shares a rather ambivalent view on his time with the band. As a renowned artist, especially in the field of typography, painting and electronic music, he didn't limit himself on black metal, which reflects in the turbulent history of the band.
Music was always my side project. And my main occupation was art in general, even freelanced art or design, graphic design, and it's still the same. I don't feel being a part of a metal scene at all, because I never listened to metal that much, except for some friends' bands, some bands of my colleagues and their side projects, of course, that some sort of interesting, but not for much time, like 1.5 song from each record, and that's more than enough, because I'm fan of electronic music, of various kinds of experimental scene, and some, well, let's say pop, whatever. But on the topic of my connection with metal music, I would wrap it inside my romantic, decadent placement in the broadest, let's say, view for art, and that's the thing I am. It comes to my mind even after decades, when I quit the, I would say, black metal thing, whatever it's called, And well, it was a nice time, and the nice thing about it is that it's over. Now we are doing different things.
While bands like Venom, Battery, Celtic Frost or King Diamond set the pace and released internationally recognized albums, Thor, Root and Master Hammer invented their own styles, trying to orient themselves, but not copying, existing concepts later called early black metal. In the late 90s and early 2000s, a new breed of black metal bands formed and started to change the landscape of the Czech scene forever.
Silva Nigra vznikla v roce 1996, když jsem kapelu založil společně s kytaristou Skultronem. Já jsem se setkal s black metal, jakoby s českým black metalem vlastně prostřednictvím Hammer a Root. Jakoby celkem zásadní kapela vlastně, takže Root jednoznačně byla kapela, která měla na mě asi největší vliv v rámci české black metalové scény, co se týče první jakoby té éry českého black metalu. Když vlastně opadl komunistický režim a otevřely se hranice, tak se sem začaly dostávat kapely tvrdšího ražení, například Creator, Sodom, Destruction, potom death metalové kapely jako Cannibal Corpse, Obituary. Faktem je, že to nebyl žánr, který by mě vyloženě až tak oslovoval. Do momentu, když jsem ve Sparku, to byl jeden metalový časopis, objevil recenzi na album Dark Throne a Blaze in the Northern Sky a já jsem si řekl, jo, tak tohle je ono. To je to, co chci dělat. Polská scéna byla vlastně ta scéna, která nás ovlivnila nejvíce v tvorbě.
Naturally, close to the Czech-German border, emerging scenes like in Annaberg-Buchholz and Žatec were first points of contact of this growing new genre.
Ich würde sagen, im Jahr 92, 93 sind die ersten tschechischen Bands, also in Form von, wie gesagt, Maniac Barca, Barkstorm, Inferno. Die haben dann nicht zusammengespielt, aber im Einzelnen immer wieder wurde dann ergänzt, auch teilweise mit deutschen Bands. Das haben dann bekannte Leute von uns gemacht, die das organisiert haben und dann auch, sagen wir mal, die Möglichkeiten hatten, über diverse Labels etc. pp. Dann solche Konzerte zu organisieren, zusammenzustellen. Ich bin dann auch ins Stocken gekommen, auch weil teilweise die Clubs nicht mehr existiert haben, wo sie damals agiert haben. Ich weiß nicht, was im Hagalas jetzt noch an tschechischen Bands unterwegs war. Ich glaube, Inferno hat auf alle Fälle dort noch gespielt. Ja, Maniac Barca, weiß ich nicht, ja, würde ich eine Lüge machen. Ja, aber in der Summe gesehen waren dann auch die Clubs ausgedünnt und sagen wir mal auch teilweise die Bands dann auch so etabliert, dass dann also für 200-300 Mark spielen wir nicht mehr. Ja, da kommen die dann auch nicht mehr vorbei. Ja. Und haben auch regelmäßig und viel bei uns gespielt, dass du irgendwann dann gesagt hast, also
hat jeder
Schön wieder Maniac Barca, ja, gerne, aber dreimal
im Jahr.
Ja, ist so, wirklich. Da haben schon viel und gerne bei uns gespielt und waren auch immer Kollegen, muss man sagen. Wurde schon ausgetauscht, aber auch sporadisch, muss man einfach sagen. Also, es war jetzt auch nicht so, dass in Tschechien dort eine blühende Szene vorhanden war, gerade was in Sachen Black Metal anging. Da wurden dann einzelne Konzerte organisiert, teilweise auch auf Hinterhöfen und wie wir schon gesagt haben, auf Dachböden. Aber wie gesagt, das waren die coolsten Geschichten bei der ganzen Geschichte. Also wie gesagt, da waren super Dinge dabei, wo du sagst, ey, das vergisst du nie wieder, wenn du auf Misthaufen stehst. Leute mit Deutsch und du wirst gepost. Es wurden 50 Liter fast die Treppe hochgeschleppt. Ja, war stark, muss man sagen. Also, hat schon funktioniert.
Concerts and musicians exchanged, and Maniac Butcher, founded in the early 90s, was one of them.
Tam to vzniklo s přátelstvím s Marcelem Špalem, s Darkmoonem, vydavatelství, který oslovil vlastně Maniac Butcher, jako, že se mu to líbí a že by ho produkoval nebo prostě zařídil nějaký koncerty a tím to vzniklo. No. Tam to bylo tak, že vlastně známí nebo takhle, black metalové kapely, co byly v pohraničí, tak ty se dostaly do toho Anaberku nebo do toho pohraničí toho Německa, ale to, co bylo jakoby dál, už třeba jakoby, už ne ty severní Čechy, nebo jako to pohraničí, to, co bylo zatím, tak ty kapely už tam nejeli, protože tam byla zase bariéra vlastně jakoby na domluvě třeba honorářů a takovéhle věcí, že to nebyl kousek. Němci oslovovali, dřív Německo v té době tak mělo spoustu svých kapel jako, a oslovovali vlastně, jako dělali sobě jakoby reklamu svým kapelám a netahali takhle lidi třeba z Čech. A právě ten Eminence, co jezdili do Žadce dřív jako kamarádi, tak ty nás tam vlastně vytáhli jako kámoši, takže nás vytáhli ven do toho Německa. My jsme zase udělali jim koncert zase u nás a byl to takový klasický výměnný akce.
So in East Germany we had a label, Sombra Records. It was Marcel Spaller or Dark Moon, that was his name. So, and he was very keen on kind of promoting bands from the Czech Republic, from Slovakia and other Eastern bands on his label. And he traveled a lot down there anyway and partied hard. So there's a different story, you know what I mean? But he promoted in a very small circle these bands. So, and of course I was listening to it too. And later on, Akhenaten from Judas Iscariot, he also kind of put his hands out in this direction. And he brought quite some bands from the Czech Republic into Germany for some underground shows.
When Marcel Spaller, founder of Sombra Records, died in 2006 from a serious illness, he was a cherished character by some and heavily criticized by others. Besides producing records for Maniac Butcher, bootlegging was common and sometimes releases had a more than shady background. Nevertheless, Spaller showcases how important early ambitioned adopters were in early black metal to spread the genre. Back in 2000, fate and form of the band Judas Iscariot built a foundation between Ash from Nargarod and Honza Kapag, and yet another remarkable Czech-German connection should manifest itself in maybe one of the most infamous German black metal releases to this day, Black Metal ist Krieg.
And I wanted to have a tight drummer, so I kind of was looking around whom I knew or who some people knew, and I think also the guy I recorded with, he had some connections down there to the Czech Republic because he was involved a little bit with Avenger, where Honza was very active in, and so we reached out to him, and he was pretty quick, interesting to do it. So we just put everything in our car and drove to his home. So we recorded it at home. You know, his mom was cooking for us. We were living there and sleeping there. And there was a little rehearsal corner. And this is where we recorded everything. It was more like a vacation on a farm, you know what I mean? So that is how it was. Yeah, his mom had very nice cooking, so I gained quite some pounds there.
It was that I was playing with Judas Iscariot and Ash, Canwolf. He was doing, I think, bass, or I'm not sure my from, sorry, guitar. He was doing guitar on the show, and we kind of clicked together also. It was like 1 year after he called me and asked me to do some dance for him.
With capitalism came the freedom of choice. While black metal evolved, and as already mentioned, more listener-friendly and more accessible metal genres like thrash, death metal and grindcore demanded room and attention. Like everywhere else, new festivals and concert series were established, and especially in Czechia, most of them were, and still are, a genre mix. Enter the Eternal Fire Festival in Volhyně might be one of the most beautiful underground festivals in Czechia. It is organized, among other supporters, by Petr Rámus Mecák and his brother Honza Kapár, both important active figures of the Czech scene. Both Petr and Honza were at some point active in bands like Master Zemmer, Avenger, Panechida or Maniac Butcher, and shared the stage with Bohemist.
We are not the smallest, we are not the biggest. We have like close to 1,000 people, 700, 800, something, plus bands and stuff like that. So, and you know, but we are more focused on underground, really. It was not our choice to make the collection, but there were so little bands that we were taking anything that is good, you know. And if it's black metal or death metal or thrash, it's all good. So what?
To je jednoduché. Kapely vybíráme nejenom já, ale i kolegové z týmu. A na základě našich historických preferencí celé roky vlastně už od Open Hellu vybíráme kapely jak z české scény, jak té old school kapely, například Root v minulosti a tak dál. A vlastně je další záběr jsou kapely ze Skandinávie. Ať jde o black metal, o death metal, thrash metal a tak dál. Samozřejmě dalším faktorem jsou zajímavé kapely z Evropy a hlavním naším záběrem je vybrat kapely, které nejsou až tolik známé, ale mají pro nás vysoký kredit. To znamená, nehrajou v Čechách třeba tak často, ale jsou neokoukaní a přináší něco nového pro fanoušky.
Using what you have just to grow was not an unfamiliar approach and could be seen in a lot of smaller countries and scenes. Foreshadowing the challenges of Czech black metal as a genre, mixed underground events like Enter the Eternal Fire Festival yet did and still do their part to bring attention to and from foreign countries.
I played here in Czech Republic a lot of times, but for this festival, it's like, oh, this would be cool, and like, oh, we have a pool. Oh, okay, that's weird. So last year when we played in Slovakia the day before at Gothum Fest. So it was kind of a combo deal. You play Gothum and then you can play Enter the Eternal Fire. And for this year we only do Enter the Eternal Fire because there's no Gothum apparently. But they reached out and they wanted us to be here, and we wanted to be here.
And also what is the most important, I think, is Brutal Assault Festival, which is like, I was lucky to play there many times from like maybe 2007, 8, like early times, and I see how it evolves, and I think that festival, like if people ask me, you know, like when I'm in USA for instance, like like, what have you heard about these festivals in Europe? They are so fucking cool. And I always mention the guys, like, I think if you want to get a good extreme metal festival, try Brutal Assault. That's fucking cool, you know. I love it.
When it comes to bigger events, Brutal Assault, with its around 20,000 visitors, is one of the oldest and biggest extreme metal events in Czechia. The event brought a lot of attention to Czech metal in general and continues to support the country's international reputation.
What I really like about it is that I meet people all over the world who say that it's their like 4 or 5 days of a year, and they come back and they are just enjoying the atmosphere of the festival and the mood, and that's very important to me. And it's really great that we really want to have a more like mid-range bands or bands who are really from the genres, and that's something which I guess it's a big connecting moment. And because of that, I really hope that we have a good relationship with the fans and fans with this festival, because our perception of the thing is quite similar, or we do like it this way.
Especially younger and next generation bands highly depend on those national festivals and every chance to perform. The given circumstances and possibilities might have simply been not enough to light the spark for broader success, and basically led to an important but unanswered question. Diving deeper into the topic, we might have pinpointed the four horsemen of Czech black metal. Our theory why Czech black metal is still considered an underground gem and is far away from becoming mainstream. Asking foreign fans, band members and even organizers about Czech black metal, most of them could maybe name 5 bands or less. Even though the Czech Republic shares a direct border with Germany, the black metal scene is still a mystery to most foreign metalheads, and not only in Germany.
I've been really posing around because I don't know much about Root. The other guys in the scene was talking about Root. I was not into Root. But then I discovered the Witchhammer demo of Törr, which came out in '87, but I didn't know about it until like 2010, and I was like super into it immediately. It was like, oh, Armageddon. Fantastic. And apart from that, I don't have the most knowledge about Czech metal at all. Sorry.
I by myself actually don't know that much bands. But we played many times there in the past, but mostly with death or grind bands. So I think it would be interesting to get to know a little bit more about the black metal scene over there.
I don't think that I would be the right person to talk to regarding Czech black metal, because I'm not very local. I'm a German guy from Berlin. Actually, the black metal scene, I have to admit, is not that strong compared to Germany. There are not many black metal bands. I mean, there are, of course, bands like Cult of Fire, there's Root, there's Inferno, but that's all what I can think of when, for example, I compare to the German black metal scene, where there are hundreds of black metal bands. The scene is quite, of course, bigger in Germany. It's just main market for metal, I think, worldwide in Germany. And it's just a smaller country. It's not comparable. It's not comparable. But there are still very good black metal bands which play here. I already named a few. and probably also younger ones, which I don't know.
I think Czech black metal has perhaps been less exposed than nearby countries, for example, Poland, whose scene has been a lot discussed and probably had a bigger influence during the 90s, but the Czech bands that came out in the early days, Master's Hammer, Root, Terror, those bands had a profound influence on the global black metal scene for sure, and probably Master's Hammer most of all had a huge influence on Scandinavian black metal. And by the time 90s black metal explosion happened, Root and Master's Hammer were definitely bands that were being rediscovered. And of course, those bands have sort of benefited, I guess, from the 90s explosion and have had a good career later, a good return as well, based on kind of that popularity. I think in the 90s, probably, you know, you had bands like Inferno, Maniac Butcher, Silver Negra, and I think those bands were more on an underground level, but still kind of kept the country within the attention of the international scene.
When black metal started to grow, Scandinavia was the place to go to. But not only the Nordics, also close Czech neighbors like Germany and Poland started strong and soon overshadowed the still small Czech scene. Dale Patterson, British author, music journalist and founder of publishing house Cult Never Dies, shared his views on black metal in several publications and especially in his book Evolution of the Cult, and had his own take on the matter.
It's hard to know why certain countries, I think, get bigger scenes than others. You know, obviously, it's not purely population, because otherwise Norway wouldn't have had such a massive role to play. I have a theory that young people tend to be inspired and are quite adaptable to embrace movements that get momentum at an early stage. And I think Poland, like Sweden and Finland, was a country that had enough important and kind of inspiring bands at a very early stage, around 91, 92, that then other groups around them and other young people and musicians were inspired to create their own bands, whereas countries like England or you know, many other countries were more sporadic. And I think maybe the Czech black metal scene has the same dynamic, that you had kind of pockets of bands. I know, speaking to Master's Hammer, that they were not really in contact with anyone apart from Root and a few of their friends and so on, but there wasn't this sort of, you know, there wasn't a big fraternity of people that were into the scene. And I think probably during the 90s, Czech black metal scene had the same dynamic, where you had a few isolated bands and, you know, isolated fans, whereas in Poland and Norway and Finland just happened to be countries where suddenly there was kind of a cumulative effect. The ball started rolling and it picked up its own momentum. And I think that's partly just down to luck. You know, maybe if Maniac Butcher and Inferno had, you know, been surrounded by more young musicians or more young black metal fans, that would have had that cumulative effect.
There's a lot of bands popping up all over the world. I mean, I can speak from from my own experience as a booker, as a festival, from a festival, that you get so much impact from worldwide that you get easily overseen. So probably it's that. You know, there's probably Cult of Fire, hard to produce for us as a festival, because there's a lot of stuff to produce around them. Music-wise, there are not that many bands which come to my mind which I want to put on stage these days. Probably a couple of underground bands, but not as good as the classics.
I guess that we have a few bands who have brought originality and interesting music, but to be completely honest, I don't think that we have hundreds of tens of such bands. So wow, I would describe it that the Czech scene it's not as big from the point of view that we have so many bigger names, but those few who were influential, like Krabator, Master's Hammer, Root, even Vector back in the days, and maybe Cult of Fire, Butalax, what to mention, Inferno. So these are the bands who do what they like to, and it's great that they are on and they are keeping the name of the Czech scene.
Tschechischer Black Metal schon klar vorher gehört und gekannt, aber jetzt speziell was Konzerte in Tschechien oder Festivals in Tschechien angeht, hat es schon relativ lang gedauert, bis man selber vielleicht so ein bisschen darauf gekommen ist. Zum einen hatte man hier ja relativ viele Clubs, du hattest relativ viele Konzerte, war es also hier schon gut abgedeckt, und dann, nachdem bei uns in der Region so wirklich diese Flaute war, nach Asgard, nach Gleis 3, war alles zu, war alles tot, dann hast du natürlich einmal nach Tschechien geguckt, und dann waren so die ersten Festivals, die da aufgefallen sind, Hellfast Attack oder Eternal Hate Fest, aber das lag...
Das Überangebot an Bands. Wie gesagt, du hast ja nur, zu den Zeiten haben sie sich zugeschüttet mit allem, was du kriegen konntest. Ich meine, du konntest, wenn du Immortal Emperor und keine Ahnung, Gehenna sehen konntest, dann bist du nicht zum Männigen Batscher-Konzert gegangen. Ja, das ist einfach so. Also, du hast das genommen, Mainstream, muss man sagen, wir waren dann Mainstream-Metaller. Das ist einfach so, du hast dann das genommen, wo du sagst, ey, das sind unsere Heroen. Ja.
According to the Adult Education Survey, half of the Czech population speak English moderately, while the English Proficiency Index puts Czechia ranked 27th worldwide. In the early days of black metal, the amount was significantly lower. In our research, we also encountered language barriers in our interviews, besides having the feeling that people were indeed able to speak English, but were more confident in their mother language.
Myslím si, že česká black metalová scéna byla jakoby uzavřena ve smyslu, nebo se uzavřela v tom smyslu, že české kapely používaly české texty, takže nebyly až tak moc jakoby zajímavé pro západní státy. V podstatě tady tohle se, dá se říct, že do dnešních dnů se to jakoby úplně neodbouralo. Já úplně nevím, faktem je, že Master Zemmer například je celosvětově uznávaná kapela, jo. Stejně jako Root nebo Thor. Pak tady máme kapely jako je Inferno, které prorazily do světa, nebo Cult of Fire. Takže myslím si, že tyto jména jsou jakoby celkem zásadní v rámci české scény, které expandovaly do světa. Avšak nejsem si úplně jistý, pokud jde o další kapely, jakoby menší v rámci undergroundu, jak moc prorazili jakoby do západního světa.
It was not usual to speak English with, guys from, let's call it show business still, because if you organize the show, in the Netherlands or in Spain, in Italy, so you must speak English with the organizer. When the band will be sleeping during its stay, how much will be the traveling costs? I remember Italy was different in this than Germany. To enter a highway in Italy it was different cost than in Germany or in Slovakia, for example.
Back in the day, only few bands of the Czech scene adopted English as their go-to lingua, and often still sing in their mother tongue. While bands like Bathory, Hellhammer, and later Darkthrone, Burzum, and Mayhem quickly adopted English, even in their first albums, none of the first Czech black metal bands decided to produce their debut in English. Supposedly, This language barrier is one of the main reasons Czech black metal was and still is harder to adopt for foreign fans. With no hope of making it big, even a lack of interest in doing so, and on top missing positive feedback, the spiral for staying underground was set.
So I would say that confidence is one part, but to be brutally fair, then I would say that sometimes, like on a Czech scene, the people did not, or in general, maybe did not take it as seriously as the other people in other bands did. And I can name Poland, when you can see a lot of great bands and they are really working hard, while maybe some of the Czech bands just working on 50% and they are rather enjoying themselves. So that could be part of the reason, and it could be also the self-confidence, but I don't think it's a main issue.
Early 90s, I remember plenty of my friends from different bands, they were many times complaining, but you know, we are from Eastern Bloc, we don't have a respect, nobody wants us. And while we were talking like how everything is difficult, there was Vader going all around the planet already from Poland. It wasn't like guys from London. And I think we were sometimes a little bit too skeptic for no reason, and it actually goes pretty well if you have a hint of luck. And in my case, I was having a shitload of luck for a talented musician who is doing the music.
Because we had the new album and we had a great manager, a great friend who took us through North America, Latin America, Scandinavia, and whatever. Austria was fantastic, and yeah, we had a great time, and that's for me it was more important than the music itself. We met new people, new musicians, old musicians, and we could talk in the backstage, and it was just fantastic. But the playing itself was boring. If you must repeat one song, let's say, well, favorite or maybe famous song, like 20 times, it's so exhausting and boring.
As we are from this underground, you know, we are dependent on those people who would be searching for it, you know. And if they don't, then we cannot help because we don't have those tools, you know, we don't have the money, we don't have the tools, you know, to bring it to the people. You know, that's it.
But are we complaining now?
No, I'm not complaining. No, I'm not complaining. It's okay. It's okay.
We're happy with what we are doing, and maybe we would be even pissed if we had to go every weekend to go somewhere playing. We enjoy go somewhere once a month, drive to a nice festival, have some fun, have some beers.
Yeah,
chat
maybe
with
it's
friends.
good that way, you know. What I would like to, it would be like to travel a little bit more, you know, like maybe to visit a couple of festivals during the summer, like somewhere abroad, you know, but not 3, 4, that's enough for me, you know.
Maybe as a result of the issues, Czechia seems to lack black metal only events. As a beacon of darkness, the city of Pilsen has played its role in trying to create a space for the genre and to beat the odds. Phantoms of Pilsen, which was one of the earliest attempts to not only support local but international black metal bands, suffered from some unexpected hardships and has ceased to exist.
I don't know. There was maybe it was all mistake because we didn't bring, you know, a good lineup for the people. Who knows, you know. But we are not professionals. We started doing it as a small, you know, local gig of bands from Pilsen, you know. That's why it was called Phantoms of Pilsen, because there were only local bands, you know. And next year we got the opportunity to do Helheim and Vulture Industries because somehow we got in touch with them.
They were passing around, and someone asked them, "Can you do the show for them?" And I said, "Oh, okay." So it was called Phantoms of Pilsen. So and then we started to think, okay, can we do it better, bigger? So we try to bring more like convenience in the place, like support to the people, good catering, and the service to the bands. And we had a crew, we were like 15 people, but the whole year we were 3 guys working on that. And 2 weeks before we gathered this Phantoms of Pilsen crew. And what I wanted to say, the previous last one,
there were some accidents and issues with drunken people being aggressive, and then we started to think, okay, is this getting out of our control? There were some fights, and we tried to calm it down, and we had to call the police, and it started to be a little bit bloody. So, and we said, okay, is this worthy of doing? Isn't it too much for us? And yeah, it was. I had a really mixed feelings. I wanted to do it, I want to continue, but on the other side, it was exhausting. It was like an entire year of work for three of us.
The expenses, for the bands, they were growing, immensely. It was insane. They were asking for flights, for hotels, for catering, for quite, high fee, and it was simply impossible. It was still, small festival for like 300-400 people. So where do you want to get the money from, So we didn't have any sponsors, nothing like that. So then it was like, the last year there was 100 people less than the one before. So we said, oh, fuck it, let's rather buy a motorcycle and let's start riding motorcycle, because that's investment into yourself and then not into people,
Pilsen is not a small town, and what was surprising, you would expect normally the majority of the local fans supporting the festival, but there were just like 40 people out of 400, and we were saying, okay, what's wrong? Why don't they come and support us?
Phantoms of Plzeň vlastně skončili z důvodu jakoby finanční velké ztráty a pro kluky to bylo prostě jak ztráta peněz, tak ztráta času, který tomu věnovali, prostě rok příprav a všechno jde do hajzlu, že prostě lidi nepřijdou, ale bylo to tam taky daný tím místem, protože to není nafukovací, je tam určitá kapacita lidí, takže a jak vlastně ty náklady na kapely rostou, tak prostě musí růst i vstupný a třeba pro lidi v Čechách je to neúnosný, takže vlastně i na tuto akci byla vlastně snad 80% zahraniční účast a vůbec se jim nedivím, že jakoby skončili, protože jak rostou nároky kapel, ceny letenek, tak prostě vnitřní akce s určitou kapacitou prostě se nedá utáhnout.
Kluci to měli těžký a prostě i když vozili jako fakt dobrý kapely, tak prostě ty lidi moc nechodili potom ve finále vlastně a bylo to hodně moc drahý. A jak říká Dan, jezdilo hodně zahraničních a i když to bylo tady v Plzni, tak ten zájem vlastně plzeňáků a českých fans tak nebyl takovej. A vlastně my jsme byli před rokem, dá se říct, ve stejné situaci. A dnešní ročník rozhodl, že pojedeme dál. Jo.
Today, Pilsen is home of Armageddon of Decibels, which is another rather mixed event, but tries to keep it underground and on the heavier side. The same organizers are involved in the Eternal Hate Festival close to the German border, which hosts black metal-only bands.
I call you demons!
Tak v České republice jakoby není moc ortodoxně zaměřených festivalů na jeden žánr, třeba black metal. Všechny jsou namixovaný a i náš festival, tady Armageddon, vlastně není jenom o black metalu, ale je tady trash metal, death metal, i když se snažíme držet těch oldschoolového ražení. A jediný v České republice je vlastně Eternal Hate Fest v Nírsku, který vlastně pořádám já.
Tak, jak už řekl Dan, tak prostě jediný, který zbyl black metalu, tak je prostě Eternal Hate. Jo, ten to tady drží. My sice tady máme taky dost teďka black metalových kapel, jo, ale my se to snažíme namíchat. Jo, a základ je, aby ten festival ten Armageddon byl prostě oldschoolovej. Jo, takže my to prostě mícháme trash, death, black a tak. Jo. A, no, ty se máš mluvčení, doufám, že to jde.
A hlavní důvod, proč vlastně tady není takovýhle festival, je, protože ty lidi na to nepřijdou. Když je to takhle moc ortodoxní, tak vlastně na tu akci se nesejdou, aby se to zaplatilo. Eternal je výjimka v tom, že vlastně se tam sjíždí lidi z celé Evropy, a na druhou stranu je to, že z České republiky tam přijede pouhých 10% návštěvníků. Takže ten festival by se prostě nezaplatil. Normálně, kdyby jsme dělali ortodoxní black metalovi.
If you won't come for black metal comes for you. For a couple of years now, Czech black metal seems to finally realize its potential and demand its rightful place in the global scene. While internationally established bands like Inferno and Cult of Fire continue to grow their fan base, and the old guard refuses to lay down their weapons yet, new players enter the scene and reach out with a relentless cold grip.
Z českej black metalovej scény je v zahraničí extrémne populárne Inferno, ktoré hrá perfektnú muziku, veľmi profesionálne, sú to skvelí hudobníci a funguje im to. Ľudia ich chcú a oni môžu ísť hrať do zahraničia, jednoducho, lebo vedia ukázať proste vysoký level muziky. Majú dobrý marketing, majú dobrého promotéra alebo manažéra, takže dostanú sa na dobré koncerty. Ako sme sa dostali my sem, písal som možno 2 roky dozadu organizátorom festivalu, že či by sme nemohli zahrať. Oni povedali, OK, tento ročník máme už plný, ale možno na budúce. No a stalo sa to, že napísali a chceli nás sem. To je celé, neviem. Hráme skrátka iný štýl black metalu, ako možno očakáva český alebo slovenský posluchač, ktorého možno viac zaujíma muzika Marduk, ktorého možno viac zaujímajú trigrované kopáky, obrátené kríže a blasfémia. My sme úplne odlišní oproti tomu. My môžeme pre niekoho pôsobiť ako úplný opak. A možno to je zaujímavé pre ľudí zo zahraničia, ktorí sú už presítení týchto Marduk klonov alebo Dark Funeral klonov. Možno to je to, prečo sa dostávame do zahraničia na dobré koncerty. Nič viac som preto nespravil. Takže zavolali nás oni. Možno je to priamo otázka na organizátorov festivalu, prečo nás zavolali.
Ingmar Asoja, founder of House of Winter, has his very own story and ties to Czechia. He stated that the success of his band Thou Shall of Death could be tied to Brno and maybe even the birth of House of Winter. On an international scope, the Czech black metal scene relies on events like House of Winter, who invite Czech bands to play in their country, or Head and Strike, who enter Czechia to bring foreign bands and more attention to black metal and the metal scene overall.
So the idea started 2018. I have a friend of mine, Felix Kramer. He is the organizer of Frostfeuernächte in Brandenburg, Berlin. And the idea was, since I book a lot of bands for Frostfeuernächte, that at the same weekend, I offer these bands a second show, basically. On the way to Frostfeuernächte, some of the bands come from Austria, from Hungary, from Romania, so on and so on. And for them, it's more interesting or more appealing to have a second show on the way, just like a secondary event on the way to supposedly the main event, Frostfeuernächte. I try to book local acts, like local bands from Brno, from around not far away from Ostrava and so on, just to help younger artists.
Prague Death Mess, which had a rather mundane and hands-on reason to be brought into existence, was on a hiatus for 7 years, after only 3 editions. By chance and dedication, Prague Death Mess celebrated an unholy resurrection in 2023, coming back even stronger and with an old but renewed mission to bring more international excellence to the Czech Republic and its capital.
Well, actually, it starts like a very small project. The whole idea was that when we prepared the first full-length album with Cult of Fire, the idea was like, how should we introduce it live for the very first time? And the first idea was like, let's bring some local band, friends, and make something together. And then later we scratched our heads a bit like, what about instead of that everybody has seen, let's bring something we recently found, we consider like super amazing, but those bands never played here. And because I fell in love completely when we played back in 2011 in Helsinki on Black Flame was Blasphemy. I've seen Mare for the very first time, and later found One Tail One Head. And you know, in black metal I was super happy with what I found in 90s, and since 1998, let's say, I wasn't that much searching for newer bands. But this, after all the years, was the first time like having those goosebumps, like, oh my god, that's the vibe I was having in the early 90s. I was so happy about that. So we decided to try to bring those guys here for that special occasion, like releasing of our album, and we will be like the support and they will be like the headliners. And actually it turned out much better than we expected. So we decided to continue for the next year. It was only 2 days festival in different venue. And the third one was in 2016. Then I was like, okay, I think I'm pretty done. I don't want to get repetitive. And I decided to quit with the festival. And then Michal, a friend of mine, was like, I want to continue with the tradition. And we agreed on the concept and everything. And now he's doing this 4th edition after 7 years of hiatus.
So Prague Death Mess was just a part of the plan how to put the band on the map. And I think they did the right thing by being connected or even embedded in the international scene. That's how the concept of Prague Death Mess was basically created. But that's how I saw the festival, you know, as an outsider and in hindsight. And my personal experience with the festival was, I mean, at that point I lived pretty far from the Czech Republic. For me, you know, coming over to Czech Republic for Prague Death Mess was like an event of the year, because obviously it featured all the bands that I found appealing. big time, and it presented the bands that were lesser known and that wouldn't normally come here. So I think we have to give them a credit for bringing those bands here and establishing a concept that resonated. I mean, probably not from day one, but clearly during the third edition you could see that it became a big thing. So for me, as someone who would attend and reunite with all the the friends and people that I knew, it was a very special event, and also seeing all the bands. So I think that was an absolutely fantastic, something that had elevated things in the Czech Republic again. When I came back to Czech Republic and started Aldous Ablaze, and then later on rejoined Heaving Earth, the key question for me was, okay, so what is going to be the platform for these bands? And how can we make sure that, these bands are part of the right, I don't want to say scene, but that they play with that they blend with the right artists, so to say. Because the idea was at that point that we were not 20 anymore. So we wanted to kind of make sure that we do things the right way. Didn't want to focus too much on the local metal scene in the first place, but had this idea absolutely independently of Prague Death Mass, that we wanted to play with interesting bands and that we wanted to bring interesting bands here. Because if we don't do it ourselves, no one would do it for us. I mean, that was very clear from the beginning. And Tom Korn, the ex-drummer of Cult of Fire, obviously, we've got some shared history, and we came up with a list of bands and with an idea. And to me, it was almost like, what do you call it, revelation? Something that kind of came from above saying, hang on, this sounds pretty similar like Prague Death Mass. And then suddenly it moved from the topic of how can we make sure that certain bands play decent actions here or organize decent concerts here, to like, how can we actually do something bigger? Yeah, thanks to Tom, we were able to agree that we will bring it back, and that I would be the person driving it and doing it, and with a little help from him and the others, obviously, because we wanted to ensure continuity. So what I want to say is, even though I was just someone who would attend things in the past, I've got the full support of Tom and the other guys who were behind the Prague Death Mass, and we were very much aligned around the concept. So we created the concept together, and that's how we are here. Especially events like Prague Death Mass bring together all the important figures of the scene, who not only consist of musicians, but also artists like David Glomba, who contributed cover artworks and other pieces to the scene. Festivals like these put Prague and Czechia on the map of international acts to function as a multiplicator and bring recognition and guests from all over the world.
I was born in 1993, so I didn't, live it through the 90s, but I think it was, that's my opinion again, it was easier to promote your band because there were not many options to check bands, You either have to go to a show or to buy a record,
And the hunger was bigger.
And people were more hungry, more passionate about it, I would say, because right now, you have like 2 clicks and you can have everything, from the obscure demos from the 80s to actual stuff. We are just a small local band. When I was younger, of course, I had some, big dreams, but the more older I get, it's more about the enjoying the moment, to just simply have fun. with that, it kind of like fulfills me. I enjoy to do that. I try to, of course, challenge my bit, challenge myself a little bit. But of course, it would be nice to reach higher, but it's not the main priority for us, I think. And I think that black metal is not that popular here these days, I mean, people, in my opinion, people seem to be more into like death metal, thrash metal, or grindcore, but that's actually weird because when you search within our history, you see that the first wave bands, basically like Thor, Root, and Master's Hammer, are considered as pioneers, within the world scene. Even the Scandinavians, many times they said that they've been influenced by these bands, particularly Master's Hammer. I heard that from Dark Throne and Enslaved. So that's weird to me. But my personal opinion that the scene is very small, kind of like divided, and people are interested in different genres, mainly. I think that's my opinion.
There is more bands than is fans. I think the bands should travel away from Czech Republic and make gigs outside and see the world outside, because this is a really small pond, and everybody's just, you're cool, but they're saying,
Navrakar is an example of the next black metal generation, basically wrapped up our findings and theories. A self-chosen isolation of most of the Czech scene with rare but strong exceptions, a generally more easy and creative approach to music, strong competition from within and outside, and other factors form what is considered Czech black metal today. Yet, talking to all those legends of early black metal, the veterans of the 90s and 2000s, as well as the current contributors to the scene, left us with only one conclusion. We know that we know nothing. Despite trying to understand Czechia and its black metal scene for several years, there are now even more secrets, connections, and music to discover worth a visit, a listen, and getting to know the artists. Finally, Czech black metal has, and maybe will always be, a rather close circle of dedicated individuals who are cautious towards outsiders, but on the other hand productive, creative, true to the underground, and with rare but successful exports, raising the Czech banner worldwide. Only time will tell how the scene will evolve, and we can only advise everyone to dig themselves deep into Czechia Under The Horns.